This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. Welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard. It's a real privilege to be with you today. Today, we've got an outstanding show for you. We've got an outstanding guest on the show for you. He is a world-renowned guy doing some amazing things out there in the world, and I can't wait to dig into this conversation and pick his brain. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most important aspects of life, of business, of anything. The most important aspect of it. Can you guess what it is? Let me give you a clue. It's about people. It's about relationships. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of relationships and how this can be a life-changing, business-changing, career-changing thing for you. Believe it or not, just because you can talk to somebody doesn't make you an expert in relationships. It means that you can carry on a conversation. It doesn't mean you've got a quality relationship. And so today we have the privilege of having an expert on relationships, cultivating relationships. This person is an executive strategist, relationship cultivation expert that has helped thousands of people throughout his 35-year distinguished career. He is a co-founder of Your Best Life, which is a company that helps people elevate their finance, their family, their fitness, and their faith so they can live their best life possible. Please welcome to the show, Chuck Hogan. Chuck, welcome, buddy.
Thank you, Jason, for having me on today. I've been looking very forward to this, buddy.
And likewise, it's not every day in life you meet people that are just special people, bigger than life people that just get it. And they've dedicated their life to helping other people get the things they need to get. So, Chuck, just start off with, just tell us a little bit about you.
Sure.
We have a little intro here. Tell us a little bit more about your background. How did you become an expert? How did you get to where you are today? Tell us the good stuff.
Absolutely. So about 22 years ago, I really started getting hardcore into behavioral sciences because my wife and I realized we were having an event in our life. And it happened right around my birthday. And she brings out this little box that has a pair of baby booties in it. And I'm like going, ruh-roh. I thought I was getting a tie. And so all of a sudden I'm like, okay, how did this happen? And she goes, you're still trying to figure that out. Man, I love you. And so the bottom line was I started having this moment, to be honest with you, Jason, I was going, wow, we're going to have a kid. And where's the instruction manual? I'm really good with instructions. Like I can put together pretty much anything to the T if you give me the instructions. But there's nothing with instructions that's coming with this little bugger. And we didn't know if it was a boy or girl. We were just praying for one head, 10 toes, most of its digits. That we were like, okay, this is cool. So as long as they come into this world fully finished and ready to go, then we're going to be able to handle this. But I started having this feeling, because at this time in my career, I was probably working close to, I'll say 85, 90 hours a week. Just, burning the midnight oil, trying to make an amazing life for my wife and I, and, with the house, the cars, and travel and all this stuff. But I started realizing something. I was happy-ish because we had things and stuff, but I wasn't full. And one of my business partners, I was involved in about 3 different businesses at that time. One of my business partners said, hey, we have this guy coming in, and he's an FSR for this company. There's a behavioral strategist who's been out in the marketplace. He has these infomercials that run at like 2 a.m. He's a huge human being, has these huge teeth. and this deep baritone voice. And I was like, okay, great. What do you talk about? He goes, hey, we're going to go to this event, and it's going to be in Denver, Colorado, where we were living at the time. It's like, awesome. We show up to this event, 3,000 people there at the Denver Convention Center, and my business partner and I are wearing Armani suits because we were those guys. We had a mortgage brokerage company. We took 10 of our mortgage brokers with us. And of course, we were in the VIP section, and they're sitting behind us a little further back. Right in front of us is Dog the Bounty Hunter and his then wife, God rest her soul, Beth Chapman. I mean, I'm watching this guy walk in with long hair, and this woman who's quite buxom, sitting right in front of us. And then there's Tony Robbins right up on stage. And this was the beginning of my path, which was energy, synergy, engagement, seeing people really connect at a deep level, and understanding that the human condition is all about what you just introduced, which is relationship, brother. And I wanted to be the best me I could be, so I could be the best husband I could be, so I could be the best father that I possibly could be, in owning all these opportunities that were coming with this beautiful life that the universe was blessing my wife and I with. And, so 7.5 months later, oh yeah, baby, June 5th, 2000. And I'm knee deep in the Tony stuff and studying and going, I believe in paying for great coaches. And because irrespective of how developed you may be, no one can see their own scotomas. That's a technical term for blind spots. Yeah. And so someone said, well, come on, Chuck, is that really real? I said, well, let's test the theory. Tiger Woods. And they go, arguably at that time, the best golfer on the planet, and still to this day, probably one of the greatest of all time. Most people don't realize that Tiger has 7 coaches. 7 coaches. And you're like going, wait, whoa. The greatest of all? And I go, look at Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, look at John Elway or Roger Staubach or any athlete that exceeds at the highest level. A Kobe Bryant, a Shaquille O'Neal. They have trainers, they have coaches, they have people who are beholden to them to help them with all the little modalities of their life. Tiger had a backswing coach. He had a follow-through coach. He had a flexibility coach, a strength and conditioning coach. He had a foot placement coach. It's like, holy smokes, like how much does one person need to amass to gain proficiency? And I said, And what I started realizing is that we all need guidance in our life. It starts when we're young. It's our parents, it's our community, it's our teachers, but these are all relationships. And so to your point, so I started taking this on and going, I need to know more. I need to know how the brain works. I need to know how body, mind, and spirit, that conjoined energy of decision making. I need to know how the sensory neurites in the heart, there's 40,000 molecules, actually cells in your body that reside in your heart that actually have the same intellectual capacity as the gray matter in your brain. People are like, wait, what? I'm like, this is scientific. They found this out in the 1970s. That's why people can make a decision in their head, but they don't feel like they've let it go completely. That's because their heart hurts. Because there's an intelligence quotient here. And so for me, I've been on this life. As I tell people, I'm a lifelong learner, which ends up making you a winner eventually. But, I keep learning lessons. So I have a PhD in screw ups. My life has been spent in the pursuit of finding solutions to situations of real life experiences. And I've learned so much because I'm a big screw up. That's the truth.
Well, I think if truth be known, I think everybody screws up. And I think the most valuable lessons that we all learn are the ones that we learn from mistakes and screw ups and embarrassments and, skint knees and all those kind of things, And so, wow, it clearly, you have connected with this science behind relationships and how the mind and the heart and the body works. And you've certainly developed a passion for it. Just looking at your background and all the things that you've done, people you've, affiliated with Tony Robbins and others is amazing. But I want to help the audience a little bit here. When we talk about relationships, the power of relationships and what they can really do for you on the heart, soul, whatever level. There's multiple layers to this, as you know, right? But define what you think, what you see, what you define as a relationship. Help bring the audience in and let's get on the same wavelength as you. What is a relationship?
It's actually really simple. It's an energetic connection with another soul.
Nice.
So you can have
that.
a relationship with energy in nature. People go, come on. I said, have you ever been floating in the ocean or down by the beach? Your toes are in the sand and you can just close your eyes and you can just feel the resonance energy, that salt air, fresh breeze, the gulls in the sky, the warmth on your face. And I said, for some people that's home. For other people, they go, oh, no, man. If I'm up at a 14er and I'm up high in the Rocky Mountains and I just smell the pine trees and I feel that fresh air blow over me and there's a chill in the air, and yeah, that's connection with nature. Some people go, no, man, it's lying in the grass and looking up at the sky and just seeing the sky, the clouds blow by. So and then with people, oh, I had this amazing conversation. Awesome. Was it the conversation or was it the energetic connection? See, there are people who will be in our lives for a reason and a season, in summer, a moment, or a lifetime. The same people that you probably ate sand with when you were 3 years old in the sandbox are not the same people that you might possibly hang out with today, and yet they may be. Why? Because these energetic imprints, we have a need that's part of the human condition. In fact, there's this principle. You have 6 human needs, which are based on behavior. And so we require a measure of certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution. The last two being more spiritual. What we have essential needs, we need air, water, food, shelter, and love and connection. So the one thing that actually crosses over into both paradigms is love and connection. We as human beings have an aspiration and need the inspiration of connection with another energy source. You are a being made up of photons, neutrons, and electrons. By your biochemical makeup, you're a being of light, which means that everything in the universe is made of the same freaking stuff. So how could we not have some resonance energy frequency that's the same between? Some people call this God. Some people call this universe. Some people call this science. And I go, okay, then let's call it what it really is. Energy.
Yeah.
That's your biochemical makeup. And so, yes, irrespective of the density, concrete by comparison to water. But isn't it interesting? Water at 60 miles an hour becomes as hard as concrete. Huh. Ask anyone who's ever hit the water at 60 miles an hour. I have, riding jet skis. Oh, yeah.
Water skiing in Florida.
Hey, you skip like
Painful.
A stone, brother. I can be. So to your point, this is where we start to mess things up. Because we make things more complicated. We really do. The human condition is such, because the brain can't process anything that's negative. So the nuance is this, is that when we start feeling energy, it's never about the energy that we feel. It's about the meaning that we attach to how we're feeling in the moment. If we feel seduced by the energy, if we feel enticed by the energy or excited by the energy, if we feel marginalized by the energy, they go, oh, I don't know, that person looks like they're a mean person. Well, they haven't even said a freaking word. But when they walked in the room, they had a presence about them that might have triggered someone in feeling less than. Other people are going, hey, I'm motivated. Who is that? I don't even know who that is. But their presence is like beyond, and you're just like, whoa, they command respect. How do you know? They haven't said a freaking word. They could have a voice like Pee Wee Herman. I don't care if they're 6'7", 6'8". You don't know. But their energy resonance that surrounds them. And we've met people like this. If you think about it growing up, so there could be people who walk in a room and all of a sudden it gets quiet and everyone looks over. Why? There's just something about them. And they're not grandstanding. They don't walk in with an entourage. They're not trying to, pomp and circumstance. It's just who they are. Then there's other people who are so submissive and they walk into a space and you'd never even recognize them.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's interesting. I worked for a leader when I was in the military. There was a guy that he was a 1-star general at the time. He would later go on to be a 4-star general. His name is Frank Gorence. Very powerful guy. Anyway, we'd be in meetings, and his deputy would sometimes take the meeting. Sometimes he'd be traveling, speaking, doing things that generals do, busy schedules and stuff. And his deputy, smaller guy, really nice guy, laid back guy, and he'd run the meetings. And it was funny to see the dynamics of the room, and even the deputy even commented on it a couple of times. Like when Frank would come into the room, he'd be, maybe 20 minutes late coming from, traveling from across the way, get into the meeting. Everybody's sitting at the table. You got like 40 people sitting around the table, and everybody's talking and making their updates and presenting their information and their PowerPoint slides and all of that stuff. But when Frank was at the table and he was in the room, like you could literally physically see people would be normally laid back in their chairs and kind of taking notes and looking at their phones and stuff. But when he was in the room, you could hear a pin drop.
Absolutely.
People sat up in their seats and they had their notes and their pens, and they were just like hanging on every word. And he didn't talk a whole lot. He'd listen, he'd ask very specific questions, and then everybody would talk, and he would talk last. And when he talked, all right, well, here's what we need to do here, and here's where we need to go next, and here's what I need from you. And he would rattle off, the stuff he wanted to rattle off, and everybody's writing 100 miles an hour. And he just filled the room. And he literally was a huge guy. He was about 6'5", 6'6", about 270, 80 pounds. And he was solid. He was a rock. He had a kind of a deeper voice. And I mean, now, and he's a big guy to be a fighter pilot. You're crammed in an F-16 or an F-15 or something, and I'm like, how do you even fit? You're like trying to close the cockpit lid, and and it won't fasten, right? People felt connected with him. There was just a certain energy about him, and he wasn't like telling jokes all the time, and he wasn't like hugging people all the time. He was just a big guy that people respected. Like he just had a presence. I don't know how to explain it. He just had this presence, and people liked him. They asked for his feedback and mentorship. And, I even kept in touch with him for many, many years afterwards. I think he later retired. He lives last time I checked, he was in Williamsburg, Virginia. But there's just some people, Chuck, that I know you probably have met many people. You just get around them, and a lot of people. I've never met Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I'd like to one day, because he's kind of got good energy. I like his energy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But people that I know that have met him, been around him for a few, they say, man, he just fills up the room. And it's not just because he's a celebrity. He just like, he's engaged.
Yeah, there's people that have suffered. They've seen things, and they have a zest for life. They have an appreciation for time and energy, and they understand the currency of life. Currency isn't just money. It's not pecunia. It's not yen. It's not lira. It's not US dollars or even gold bullion. It's time, energy, intention, patience, connection. It's all these things that require cultivation. And so any experience that you ever have in your life will require you. And so that's the essence of that energy. And that's why I go, it's a connection to other energy. It's about what we get to bring. And the value only has the proposition of who you are. Because you can't give what you're not. You can't. You can be empathetic, sympathetic, loving, kind. But if you're not, and that's not your nature, then you're going to give whatever you have access to. Now, to your point, I don't know if this general even knew who he was being all the time. But he did know one thing. When he was in that room, he was a general. At that time, a 1-star general going to become a 4-star general. I don't even know. Most people that progress at that pace don't go, oh, I want to be a 4-star general.
Yep.
They just know that they are committed to growth and contribution and connection and value. And those are the people that cultivate the highest level of prosperity. See, in relationships, there are 3 types of people. And my business partner, and I credit Preston Brown for this because he made it so eloquent in making it just 3 choices. He goes, there's givers, there's takers, and matchers. Which one are you? And here's what I know. For many of us, we're givers. We're addicted to giving. We love giving. Why? Because we feel great. But there's only one challenge when you're a giver. Someone needs to be a gracious receiver. Because that completes the cycle of the giving process. When you actually feel that what you've given has value and it helps elevate. We set a new standard for people. See, isn't it interesting? We talk about setting standards. You go, yes, because that creates gravity that people can hover around. It's not outcomes and goals. It's actually a way of living. That's what standards are. That's why we raise standards. We create standards. Outcomes and goals have a pass-fail ratio. And so you either make it or you don't. It's like, oh, did you pass or fail? It's like, well, it's a 50-50 choice. There's no gray area in there. I got close. No, that's a fail. Okay? And you can get 99.9% of the way there. It's like, well, I almost made the time. Wrong answer. You fell below the threshold. But if you go, oh, I'm raising my standards and I improved and I did better than last time. Outstanding. See, here's the deal. We don't judge progress, millimeter or a mile, but progress equals happiness. What feeds progress is possibilities when you know there's the opportunity. I had someone go, well, okay, why'd you go there? I said, well, actually, he asked me for an example. I said, that's easy, the 5-minute mile. For decades, no one could break this 5-minute mile. Everyone's running and they're like, can't be done, man. It can't be done. And then one dude breaks the 5-minute mile. Well, all of a sudden everybody starts breaking it. Why? Because the mental stigma is that whatever you believe is the level you'll achieve. That's right. When we have a self-limiting governor in our own ability and capacity, then you will only live up to that temperature or that effort or that level. Because it seems so insurmountable that the universe could allow any mere human being to break a 5-minute mile. Now you have kids in high school that are beating a 5-minute mile.
Yep.
Like, wait, what? Are they superhuman? No, they're really dang fast. And they don't know any better.
Yep.
They're like, I like running.
That's so true. So Chuck, I want to peel back some of this,
Please.
The relationships. This is such a powerful thing for people because your success, your happiness, your future, everything in life that you will ever do or become or wish to be, hope to be, will be predicated on your ability to have meaningful relationships. I'm not talking just with your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, kids, grandma. That's obviously important, but that's a little bit easier because they're part of the package. When you're born, they're just there. That's a a natural relationship, and that's great. You need to, obviously cultivate and nurture those as well. But one day you grow up and you start going to school, and you have to play on a team, and you have
Yep.
to get out in the workforce, and you have to get along with people, and then life really starts kicking you in the teeth, right? And everything about you and what you do and will become, to the point of when you eventually pass away at the end of your life, there will be a legacy, and that legacy will depend. What people say about you at your funeral will depend on the quality, the level, maturity of the relationships that you've built. And so in today's world, it's a kind of an interesting time in our country with the economy the way it is, post pandemic, and just wars going on, and just all kind of stuff going on in the world. To me, it seems like more than ever we've kind of lost this art of relationships, and we've got to recultivate that. We've got baby boomers and different people leaving the workforce. We've got
Yes.
different younger folks coming in that are much different in the way they think and their expectations. We've got to redefine these relationships. So why is it more important today to recultivate this and drive this?
Sure. So technology is moving at a pace now that is rampant. If you look at what's happening in artificial intelligence with ChatGPT and a number of different programs that are starting to create a whole new frontier of digital integration and I'll say artificial progression. It can do calculations faster than the human brain can. I mean, Deep Blue was a computer that I believe is now probably 20 years old. And they took like Bobby Fischer and some of the greatest chess minds in the world and then programmed it with all their moves. And in the span of like something like 64 weeks, it ended up beating everybody. Well, the latest computers now have beat Deep Blue over and over and over again. And it's done it in a matter of minutes, not even hours, minutes. The speed with which technology is being advanced at this point. If you look at, something as simple as an iPhone, this is, an iPhone 14 is only 14 years old. Let's put this in perspective. This has 1,000,000 times the computing power of what sent the first astronauts to the moon. So, even if you talk about, aircraft and jets, fly-by-wire technology by comparison to the hydraulics that were in early aircraft like an F-4 Phantom or a Sabre or an Avenger by comparison to an F-22 Raptor now. It's mind-boggling the level of intuitiveness. Now, why do I share this? Because at the basis of this, it's not about the technology and it's not about advancement and progression. It is, and I'm going to peel it all the way back to the beginning of the onion, okay, to the seed, so to speak, or the bulb. This is about us. And it's about you as an individual. Before you can actually have any kind of fortuitous relationship with anyone else, you need to start to get some clarity and understanding as to who you are. Because your energy frequency and where you resonate will be the people that you are actually going to induce into your world. That like-mindedness and like-heartedness. Like-mindedness is great because it gives you a cultivation point from a visual occupancy to be able to see what someone else like. Oh, hey, I saw what you saw. Jason, did you pick that up too? Yeah, I like the way that you think, brother. I got you back, man. But here's the thing with alignment. Alignment actually creates scotomas because if I have all these people standing in a line, so we'll look at it from like if we're looking down at their heads. Here's the problem with this. You're all seeing the same things and none of you can see behind you. You don't know if the boogeyman's coming up behind you or the bus is going to hit you. Why? Because you're all looking in the same direction with the same focus and you're like-minded. So you are myopic in your perspective. This is why in a room of members, we need diversity. We need divergence because now what you get is scaling. You have actually people at different points that can actually see your blind spots. You go, Jason, move to the left real quick. Why? Because that rickshaw's coming through and this guy's going to mow you over. They were serious. They had to get to some pad thai like now. So do like, so this becomes important because now we have accountability. Relationships become valuable when three things happen. One, we have accountability of self. We have the understanding that we don't have all the answers. So what does that lead us to? I said two, vulnerability. When we are able to give permission to someone else, because we understand that it's not about like being like-minded. It's like, hey, I know this guy. I know this gal. They have a really good heart. They are a heartfelt, loving person who lives in servant leadership. I know they've got my back. We may not always agree on stuff, but I know they would never intentionally harm me. And I've given them permission to stand for me, and they've given me permission back. And what's beautiful about that vow, that distinction is there's vulnerability both ways. Not only will they help elevate you, but they also have the ability to hurt you. And in that exposure, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. How in the military do you give someone else, gravitas to be able to say they're part of my team? If they're your wingman, or if they're your real, if you happen to be in an F-14 Tomcat, or if you're, whatever the case might be, or if they're in a support system, they're in an AWACS and you're getting, information feedback. It's like, it takes team. And then the last part is trust. When we give this vow that we trust and we believe to our core, this is one of the reasons why the human condition is that we go, oh, I'm so sorry. We got a little over exuberant here. Took myself out of my own ear. So here's part of that deal. When we get disappointed, it's because we had an expectation. Man, I didn't think they'd ever do that to me. I gave them permission. I was vulnerable. It hurt me. It hurt me. Wow, why would they say something like that? Why would they do that kind of stuff? And here's the truth. The human condition is that we're constantly changing and evolving. Some people evolve and grow. Some people de-evolve because they have so much insecurity in their life that they find that they have to become more sheltered. So where they were vulnerable before and they kept the commitments, now they're no longer willing to keep those commitments. So they cloister off and shut off. And this is where you go, hey, I haven't heard from you in a long time. Hey, why you haven't checked in? Hey, are you okay? And people go, wait, what? I go, well, that's the relationship. So communication becomes paramount in all this, but it starts with you. Do you honor, love, and appreciate yourself? When you look in the mirror, do you actually care about that person? Or are you dismissive to self? I know this feeling. I've been there. And here's the challenge. Self-care is not selfish. It's essential.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't give away what you don't have, right? So if you're not in good health, you're not in good mind, and you're not positive, and you don't bring energy, and you're not sleeping well at night, eating well, exercising, all of those things, then you're not going to be your best, right? So you can't go out into the world and contribute and give, as you were talking, there's givers, takers, and matchers, right? So you want to be a giver because you can't just be a taker all the time, because then nobody's going to want to be around you because you're taking all the time. It's good to be a matcher because you can connect people, match things, and help people. But again, that's, I won't say superficial, that's surface level, right? That's not really a relationship.
Actually, it is though. And I can explain.
It?
Yeah, it is.
Well,
and let me explain
please
why.
do.
Because givers give how often? All the time. That's who they are. They're wired that way.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what creates happiness for them. Takers will take. Why? Because, hey, receiving all the time and not having to have a whole lot of investment, they're filling up at the highest level. They're like going, oh, that's yeah. Right. My buddy has season tickets to, the professional football team, or it might be the soccer team or the basketball team. This guy hasn't paid for a drink in goodness knows how many years. He's like, oh, I got a buddy that owns a bar. Oh, yeah, my friend owns this restaurant. I'm like going, man, you are the biggest grifter I've ever met. I mean, you're a nice guy, but for the love of Pete, you're not that funny. And then there's this ideology of matchers. And here's what I love about matchers. Matchers understand their own value. And this is huge. Because they'll go into a relationship and go, hey, I am happy to give. And I'm not giving to get. Because they're 100% in. Here's the cool part. They attract other people who are 100% in. Well, let's think about a loving relationship with a spouse. They go, okay, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. I said, No one said, oh, 50% of the time I'm in. I'll give you 50%, you bring the other 50%, and then we'll be hitting 100. I go, no, 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 no. It's 100 and 100. And here's the
Yep.
deal. You're matched in the relationship, and they go, yeah, but Chuck, boy, that's bad ratios because 60%, 65% of all marriages end in divorce now. They go, why is that? And I said, lack of communication. And they stopped dreaming together. Boy, when you first got together, you couldn't wait to be with one another. You'd even try and sneak away from work early to be with this person. You would plan vacations and getaways and romantic times. And, oh my gosh, they don't have this, this, and this. If I could just get her a gold chain or that diamond ring, or, oh, you know what? I would love to give her a new car or a puppy or whatever the case might be, flowers, candy, a weekend getaway. It's like we dreamt about all this stuff. And then somewhere people stopped dreaming and they started surviving. Why? Well, they had a kid or two. It's like, oh, you don't understand. The kids are busy. We can't leave. They have school. They have this, they have that. And I go, here's the truth. Because my wife and I now, our youngest is 16. 2 more years, she's going off to college. And I go, here's this big old house. 2 are already off at college. One's a senior, one's a freshman. I go, they come home to visit. And my point in being is, your kids are here because of the love you had for one another. They're the result. They're the living, breathing legacy of your love for one another. Never lose sight of the two of you. Yep. Because they're going to learn what love is by watching the example of you. Public displays of affection, holding hands, sharing, talking, caring, communication. So that's what creates healthy relationships, and that's why people propagate, and they go, my gosh, that guy married his mother. I should be so lucky. No, I mean, and something, oh, you're just trying to marry your father.
Yeah.
Yeah, strong, stoic man, solid, honest, hardworking. It's like, whoa, value systems. So to your point, matchers I love because here's what matchers do. They communicate continuously and they share their thoughts, their dreams, their aspirations. They go, but it seems very transactional, Chuck. And I go, well, what's wrong with a transaction? You're giving and receiving. Isn't that what a transaction is? I said, but I'm not whoring myself out. I didn't ask, hey, we had kind of a nice night, didn't we? What are you asking for? Well, I mean, where's your billfold? Wait, what? No, I'm not asking to be paid. Wow. Oh, no, you might have been really good. But my point in being is, no, you're like, oh, wow, thank you. Oh, my gosh, I'm so fulfilled. I feel so connected. It's such a loving engagement. I go, oh, wait, you had an energetic fill-up? Wow. How cool is that? We had so much fun. We went out to a comedy club and just laughed all night. See, I'm half Asian, so Asian flush is real. I can't drink anyway. So she can have a margarita or two. I know I'm the designated driver. And here's the cool part. We didn't have to be in an altered state in order to have a great time together. We were matching each other because we enjoyed each other's company. It wasn't just the comedy show. It was that it could have been a concert. It could have been a movie. It could have been a walk in the park. It could have been walking the dogs. It's energy.
Yep.
Who's showing up to the party?
Well, one of the things from your teachings that I think is really, really powerful, in addition to some of the things we've talked about, is kind of what I'll call the well-roundedness of relationships, right? What do I mean by that? Well-roundedness, meaning relationships mentally, spiritually, physically, not only with, coworkers or your spouse or your kids, but you're well-rounded in your relationships. You work out with people. You have people that hold you accountable to losing 20 pounds or, looking like, getting a 6-pack, going to church and living a Christian life or whatever kind of faith-based life you want to live that's right for you, right? There's a well-roundedness to the relationship. You can't just have a relationship with your spouse and a relationship with your kids and a couple of relationships with people you work closely with at the office, and then maybe a couple of neighbors, and then the depth of your relationships is less than 10 people. Really, what are you doing there, right? And how do you really grow and cultivate yourself and each other? Human beings are built to be engaging with other people, right? And there's more to life than just work and home, and so you've got to have relationships around you in a full kind of centric manner. So, Chuck, how, if I'm a listener listening to the show, we're talking about relationships. I think like one of the big questions is, man, that sounds great, but how do you do that? What if I'm an introvert? What if I've trusted somebody? What if I've been in a relationship, friends, love, whatever kind of relationship that is, and I was abused in it or neglected in it or not treated, and I got screwed over, and I've got hurt feelings, and no matter
Sure.
where you are, whether you're just starting out as a teenager, whether you're 60 and retired or somewhere in between, how do you round out relationships? How do you build relationships? How do you cultivate that? What is the magic?
Yeah.
What are the secrets?
There's a very
to doing that?
simple platform, if you want to call it. It's a kind of a foundational metric that is literally the bedrock of all relationships. And that is, how do you need to feel most often?
Ooh, wow. That's a powerful question, Chuck.
It is. And people go, well, what do you mean? I want to be happy. I go, great. Because at our core, we're all 3 years old. See, when you're 3, life is simple. As we maturate, for some reason, we take on emotional plaque and we call it experiences. We call it life. I've been rode hard and put away wet. And I'm like going, it's like your grandfather said, oh, I walked uphill both ways in the snow barefoot. And I was like, wait, wow, that's a pretty big steep hill. I mean, how is it uphill both ways in the snow and you were barefoot? I know great grandpa gave you shoes. Come on, man. And it's like, but the point in being is that there's kind of this sensationalism that goes along with it. And I said, I get it. People have suffered, but a suffering state only happens when we're focused on one thing, and that's ourselves. That's when suffering occurs. So let's get back to this. If I ask you and I said, Jason, how do you need to feel most often? In fact, we'll just do this real quick because it's so easy for people when they start getting out of their head. So if I were to go, Jason, so hey, brother, it's so great to meet you. I was curious, if you were to ask yourself, barring no conditions, money, time, energy, how would you need to feel most often every day for you to feel fulfilled?
Wow, that's a big question, Chuck. That's a big question. That's a deep question.
So we're going to rattle them off because here's the cool part. There's more than one. So how would you like to feel?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what day, I guess, with my personality, right? So some days I want to feel safe. Some days I want to feel like fun.
Yeah.
Some days I want to feel like focused, like I need to concentrate and I just need some quiet time and some calm. Some days I want to feel like fit. I want to feel strong,
Yeah.
Some days I want to feel connected to a higher power, like, kind of delete the noise around me. And I just want to connect to the broader spiritual aspects of things, it's kind of different.
Yeah,
But
it is.
But I've learned in my life that how do I take all of these mixtures of feelings and emotions and kind of bring them together? How do I live? How do I wrap my life around that? Or how do all of those things wrap around me in my life?
Right.
To where I don't have to like think about it. I don't have to go like, oh, it's been 3 months since I've prayed, maybe I need to connect with Jesus today, right? Like I don't have to stop and think about it,
Sure.
because some of the people, the happiest people, most like sincere, genuine people, successful people, just the things that we're talking about is just embodies them, right? They don't think about it. They don't
It does.
try like a checklist to go down it. That's just who they become. But how do you do that? How do you bring all that in and
Yep.
just live
So it's
that
easy.
way?
It's so easy. So and we're going to boilerplate this down because those were great examples, by the way. Anytime you feel fit, anytime you feel connected to your faith, anytime you feel like you're having some fun, anytime you feel energetic, anytime you feel centered, any of those, the 5, 6 things that you mentioned,
Yeah.
ultimately that makes you feel a certain way. Any one of those 5 things. And I'm for the sake of time, I'm going to help boilerplate it down. When you're 3, you have 3 responses: happy, sad, or okay. So anytime you feel connected to faith, I'm happy. Anytime I feel fit, I'm happy. Anytime I'm, feeling purposeful or intentional, I'm happy. Anytime I'm procrastinating, frustrated, aggravated, marginalized, don't feel like I'm creating value in some way, shape, or form, I feel sad. And anytime I'm just getting by, I'm all right. I'm okay. It's like, oh, whoa. We're just okay. That's no life. That's called survival.
Yeah.
So the truth is that we make life so complicated. But here's where it gets very interesting. I get to decide in the relationship how I need to feel by simply doing this. Anytime I want to feel any of that culmination of things that are toward the positive, towards the happy, what direction am I going in? I'm happy. I'm fit anytime I'm fulfilled anytime I am faithful anytime I am spiritual anytime and I go, here's the cool part. We don't judge direction. We measure direction, and you can't change what you can't measure. Here's the best
Wow.
part. So now when we start to understand, it's like, whoa. I want to feel more fulfilled. I'm going to get me some of this. And it's like, well, okay, did you have to run 20 miles in order to feel fit? No. I just went to the track, walked a couple laps, ran a couple laps. Man, it felt good to open up my lungs, engage my bodies. I'm probably going to feel a little bit of a burn tomorrow. And you go, but progress equals happiness. A millimeter or a mile. It doesn't make a difference because we don't judge direction. Here's the cooler part. They go, dude, I've been heading in the wrong direction. That box of ho-hos is not doing me any good. That case of Twinkies I put down last week, I'm going to pay for that. And I go, well, here's the cool part. You have GPS. You can course correct from here. You made a wrong turn at Albuquerque or
right.
Twinkieville. It's like, let's make a right. Okay. And here's the best part. I don't have to go all the way back in that path and go, I probably should eat another case of Twinkies so I can really link to the emotional feeling of not wanting to feel that way again. I go, time out. The answer is no. We can move from this point forward because yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Be grateful for today because it's a gift called the present.
Yep.
We get to decide from this point forward. 5 minutes ago, half an hour in this conversation is already, it's done and dusted. From this moment forward. But here's the secret sauce to this whole thing. You ready for this? So
I'm ready.
This is really simple. And in fact, I'm gonna show it on your hand because you can actually put this in your kinesiology so you can remember this. How do you need to feel most often? This is your purpose or your why. Your whole identity is raveled around this why. In fact, this purpose allows you to hold on to any dream, anything in your life that you have aspiration to keep a hold of. If you have a weak purpose and you take this away, it can be slapped, pulled, bumped, moved. You're going to lose it. So having a strong why of how you need to feel most often is paramount. Any direction you go in, this is the pointer finger. Hey, head in the right direction. It's not polite to point. I'm like, great, then aim towards the stars. What are your, and this has nothing to do with outcomes and goals, by the way. This is supporting how you need to feel. Anytime I walk the dogs, anytime I walk on the beach, anytime I have a great conversation with my wife, anytime we hold hands, anytime I see my kids, anytime I, play sports, anytime. Awesome. But here's the secret sauce. Who's showing up to the party? We need to love and appreciate ourselves before we can fill everybody else up. You put the oxygen mask on you first. So remember who you are. I'm a loving guided gift from God. I am a soulful, intellectual, humorous human being. And here's the best part. What do we need to let go of? Judgment, beratement, short-sightedness. Because if you're judging yourself, you lose access to all the resources that part of your identity holds. You no longer have access to that fight, that drive, that motivation. That's why some people just go numb. But from here, you get to come up with outcomes and goals, loving relationships, connection with people, and then take mammoth action. But this creates a full body experience. But these three are imperative. I see people who do this. I want to be in a loving relationship. Why? Because then I'll be full. I'll feel love. So I can take mammoth action. Do you notice a huge gap here, Jason?
Yeah.
It will never be sustainable. And this is why most relationships end in divorce, because they have this objectified, if I just marry a guy with this much money who has this type of career, then we have a kid, then we're going to go ahead and it will be a happy family. Why don't you just start that you're going to be a happy human being that's going to attract another loving human being, and you're going to take the direction. We're going to travel together. We're going to have fun together. We're going to enjoy life, all the life experiences, because that's what life is. Simon Sinek has this saying, and he has these two concepts, which is a finite mindset and an infinite mindset. There's no such thing as winning in a relationship. You don't win with your kids. You don't win at work. People like go, wait, what? I go, let's test the theory real quick. In a finite mindset, you know all the players. It's kind of like sports. There's players on a team, right? So that's rule one. You know all the players. You know who's on the field, who's on the court. Great. Rule two. There's only winning and losing. Because there's rules. There's rules to the game. And if you break the rules, then there's penalties and fouls and, you did wrong. And so bad person. And the last one is the only outcome is whether you win or lose the game. So you have a 50-50 choice. That's a very finite way of thinking. So you don't go, ooh, okay, I entered in this relationship. I said for better or for worse. I hope it's for more better, man. I hope it's for more better. I was like, whoa, hopium's a terrible drug. You get addicted to hopium, because all those resources come from outside of you. They're not coming from within you.
Right.
I hope the universe gives me a good person. I hope they bless me with a loving soul. Go, okay, wait, time out. Let's convert over to the infinite mindset. You know some of the players. Why? Because they're changing. Your kids are a gift to you, but they're leased. Because at some point in time, they're going to go out off on their own. And so the majority of the time that you get them for when they're young becomes the minority of the time as they cultivate and grow. Oh, same with other people in your life, parents, so on and so forth. Because that same legacy is us to them. Wow. Second, and this is a big one, there are no rules to the game. There aren't any rules. There's only value alignment. And when you know someone's heart, you know their integrity, you know their value system, now you know that they are standing for you. And so you don't have to worry about judgment. And third, there's no winning or losing. There's only staying in the game as long as you can. I know that's the way I need to look at it with my life. I want to spend the rest of my life with this woman. And I pray to God that she allows me to do that. I want to be in my kids' lives as long as they'll let me. And as long as my body holds out and that the spirit keeps me on this earthly plane. But, with modern science, I could be 150. I'm going to look like a freaking prune at 150, but it could be 150. But with stem cell research, who knows, brother?
Wow, Chuck, man, what a powerful man. You really hammered some deep stuff today, and, that can, hopefully connect with our audience and our listeners in ways. I anticipate our listeners kind of replaying this a few times. I mean, there was so much action-packed, golden nuggets in there to mine. I anticipate people are going to be replaying this over and over and taking notes of some of this. Is very powerful stuff. And what I love about you, Chuck, is, one, you just have such good energy, and two, you simplify things, right? This world is chaotic and crazy, and it's hard. Life is hard, especially, right now. This is a challenging time for a lot of people, but life can be simple. Life can be easier. You just have to think differently. You have to put different people around you. And I love your analogy. Hey, how do you want to live your life? What makes you happy? What needs to happen for all of this happiness to happen, right? And then, the law of attraction kind of kicks in, right? You ever notice, Chuck, that the miserable people that gossip about people at the water cooler at work always attract the lonely, miserable people that like to gossip, right? Have you ever noticed? I use the Alabama Crimson Tide football team on a regular basis because it's such a great example, right? Like Tom Brady is on a team and they're going to win. They may not go to the Super Bowl every year, but they're going to have a winning season, right?
Sure.
The Alabama Crimson Tide football program under Nick Saban's, what I'll call dynasty, they just breed and attract like-mindedness, champions, winners, discipline, and that's why they're so consistent. And so if you want to change your life, if you want to be more successful, more prosperous, more anything, grow to whatever level in your spiritual, physical, whatever aspects of life, you have to look in the mirror and say, well, how happy do I want to be? What is my definition of happiness for me? And what needs to happen to make that happen? And then how do I put people around me and attract people to me and cultivate those relationships? So Chuck, as we kind of depart, I wish we had a lot more time. We're going to have you back on the show and continue some conversation because I think, just in my view, really unpack just a few key things that you really bring to the table. But as we end for today, if you're a listener, what are the top 3 things that you think people need to take away that's the most important now for people to put down their earbuds when they're done listening to the show and go take immediate action to go build better relationships, not only with themselves and their family, but outside of that and all of these dynamics? What are the top 3 things they can just do right now?
Number 1 thing, slow down. Slow down and breathe.
Nice.
There's this technique that Navy SEALs use and law enforcement uses, like SWAT teams, called box breathing. Very simple. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds. And you do this over a span of like 2 or 3 minutes. And what you will find is that if you put your concentration on your heart, in fact, you could just take your hand and place it on your heart as you're doing this exercise, it will bring you to center, and everything else, all the noise, all the thoughts will just melt away. That's number 1. It also does something physiologically for you. It integrates your body, mind, and spirit. It actually connects your vagus nerve to the rest of your physiology, and your EKG and your the EEG and EKG of your body, your heart rate and your the sympathetic brain system actually go into synchronous rhythm, sinus rhythm together. It's physiologically proven. Second thing, understand this clearly. You're not broken. You never were. It's a story that you tell yourself, and it's BS. That's right, a belief system. For some of you, it's other BS,
I like that.
But it's a belief system. And the truth is that it's not serving you. The old story actually makes you feel secure because it gives you a sense of certainty that in some way, shape, or form, that what happened to you, and I'm going to just go on record as saying this, if you had a traumatic incident, and I'm sorry that you went through it, but it's time to let it go, because there's not one cell in your body that is the same from 24 months ago. Every single cell in your body rejuvenates 100% within 2 years. Every single DNA strand of you.
Wow.
And so please do not hold on to old toxic memories and beliefs. They're not serving you. And lastly, and this is probably the most imperative, simplify. Ordinary things done consistently produce extraordinary results. There's a very simple technique that you can do that takes 2.5 minutes a day. So out of your 24 hours, I'm going to plead with you to do this simple exercise. At the end of the day, ask yourself these 3 questions. How did I feel most often? and write them down in a journal or on a piece of paper. But if you can have a journal or a notepad, a legal pad, write them down. How did I feel most often today? What did that mean to me? What's the meaning I gave to it? How would I like to feel tomorrow? And set the intention for tomorrow. If that's happy, if that's exuberant, if that's valued, if it's prosperous. And then, so that's what you do at the end of the day. The next morning you get up and you reaffirm and ask yourself, how do I need to feel most often today? And you write it down and you set that intention for the day. So you're going to find that there's a perpetual cycle, but it takes about a minute in the morning and about a minute and a half at night. And here's what's beautiful about this. It's kind of like getting abs. If you started to do at least a little bit of crunches every single day or leg lifts, you would start to find you're like, ooh, definition. Ooh, core's getting stronger. Ordinary things done consistently produce extraordinary results. How do I know this? Because you're listening to us right now. You're on Jason's podcast and you're viewing this and you're fully present and you're breathing and your heart is beating. And it does it unconsciously. The gift that you have is that the universe through the night keeps you alive. And without you even thinking about it, your breath is there. Your heartbeat is there. And the fact that you wake up the next morning means that you have purpose on this planet. You're not here by accident. You're here on purpose. And you're not broken.
Wow, that's powerful. I think people are going to get a lot from that. I've certainly learned a number of things from this conversation alone. You're a heck of a guy, an amazing connector. And just really, what I think makes you really awesome at relationships is how to, like, nothing, you didn't talk about anything topical today, nothing surface level, right? It was really deep, heart, soul. Let's really connect with ourselves and ask ourselves some really hard questions and be accountable and really define with clarity what we really want to be. Do we want to be ugly and hateful? Do we want to be resentful? Do we want to be angry? Or do we want to be happy? You have a choice. You can wake up every single day and make the choice to be upset about something, or you can wake up and say, today's a new day. I think I'm going to go out and run 2 miles. And after that, I'm going to go eat breakfast. And then I'm going to go call my long lost buddy from college that I haven't talked to in 6 months and see how he's doing. Probably a reason we haven't talked in 6 months. You have choices, and you really were amazing, Chuck, and how you broke that down and simplified that into, like, oh my God, this is so easy. Like, I can't believe I'm not thinking about this. I mean, this is so common sense. Like a caveman can do this, right? So thank you so much, Chuck, for your time and just being a wonderful human that you are. Chuck, if people want to learn more about you and what you do and your company and in your life's passion and work, how can they contact you? How can they get a hold of you and connect with you even more?
Sure. So we have a community that we've created called Your Best Life. And it's really simple. We looked at life and said, what are the 4 pillars? And we said faith, family, fitness, and finance. So you can just go to yblnow.com and check us out. It's literally a community of like-minded, like-hearted souls. And we travel on different trips 4 times a year together based on these pillars of learning. We have amazing guest speakers. Like, we're getting ready to go to Rwanda in May and go commune with gorillas on a family trip with John Gray, the author from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Yeah, he's flying over with us, and he and his daughter, and we've got about 45 people going on this trip. We were just in Vail with Orrin Claff, one of the top VC capitalists. We just had a financial summit over there with about 75 people. So it's about communing together, because if you're going to work hard, you need to play hard. And you want to be around people who are aspiring and living at this higher level, because I can guarantee you this in relationships, and I'll stop with this. You will become the top 5 people you spend the most time with, both in income, values, alignment, opportunities, and experiences. Invariably, if you go back and look, the top 5 people you spend the most time with, you're like, oh, I don't even know why I act this way. I do. It becomes a
Chuck,
very interesting prophecy. So
yeah. Well, Chuck, thank you so much. I think are going to make a big impact on our listeners and continue to make an impact on people abroad. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Um, Great job. And would love to have you back on the show. And so that's it for today's episode. We look forward to having you back here next week when we have some more guests on the show talking about some important things that matter to you in your life and helping you. Have a good week.